Top of the agenda is the Western Bulldogs, who endured a Sunday of frustration and disappointment that has become all too familiar. It's adding to a brooding sense around Whitten Oval as a season that was planned to be successful seems to be getting away.
Ali, you guys can dictate the narrative. We know that unless you're winning games of footy, you're always vulnerable.
The Hawks win their second win of the year. One of the hardest fought wins you'll ever see.
I think you'll be the headline story of the week now.
They had a bad day.
Beveridge should be gone by the close of business today.
I've got a thick skin, I can deal with it, but I won't let it affect the way that I care for and manage the playing group.
I mean, they're just inconsistent. They've been good on their days, very poor, consistently.
Why is there no expectation from Luke Beveridge and the Western Bulldogs that they actually have enough weapons in this side, if they had a game plan and if the players were able to execute, that could be winning finals and playing off in prelim finals? I don't get it.
I can see him walking, right, and saying, you know what, I have wrung the rag dry on this group. I have got the lot out of them, a la Damien Hardwick. Finished up at round 10 last year. It doesn't mean your career's over, that means it's over at the Dogs. You shake hands, you've been great for one another. That's how I think this story will finish.
It's deflating, but, we've got to stay the course and continue to rub shoulders, look after each other and search for our next win.
It's not about panicking or particularly listening to external narratives. You really need to focus on what's happening within your club.
Is there panic?
No, there's not panic. No, definitely not.
You do feel like the playing group and everyone's on the same page based on today's performance?
Yes, mate.
They set up for success this year after disappointingly missing the eights at the end of last season. They look to have regressed. That would be the takeout from the first third of their season, is they aren't the team that they're aspiring to be.
No, the optimism over the pre-season from their two reviews last year, Gerard, that's evaporated. Round 8, I think 5 of the 8 teams were against teams that were outside the 8 last year, so they've got some tough games to go. Yeah, I've looked at Beveridge. Everyone's looked at Beveridge, and I've been a supporter of him all the way through. I think I admire coaches who are a little bit different, but always there comes a game, Gerard, where that faith is questioned. I would think that the party's nearing the end, and that's what the headline is to paper in the Herald Sun tomorrow. The party's coming to an end for Luke Beveridge. And I wasn't aware that... Why
do you think that's the case?
Because there comes a time when the coach will put his head on a pillow and ask himself, am I getting the best out of this group? Now, I'm not... This is not a throwaway line. I think all coaches have got a lot of integrity, and when they care about the player, they care about the club, and they talk about code and honour and stuff. I think Luke Beveridge will put his head down and say, you know what, yeah, it's been great, it's my 10th year. I'm not getting through. It's not getting through to them. These players, they're making a lot of mistakes. Don't get me wrong. These players can't shirk responsibility, Gerard. People kicking out from full back and missing targets. People running into open goals or running through the midfield and dropping balls out of their hands. How do you coach against that? Is there confidence levels? Is there self-belief levels? That's when it gets sheeted back home to the coach, and it always does. But right now, they've got Richmond this week. If they lose to Richmond, I fully expect Luke Beveridge to wake up and say, right, it's been great, but I've got to go. I've got to go, and it's best for me, and it's best, certainly more so, I think it's best for the playing group.
Yeah, so yesterday was jarring because it's against a team that is enduring the pains of rebuild at the moment, and they should be substantially better than that. So one of the tipping points in this is, should the Dogs be better than they are? So I'm a yes on that.
Yeah, they're better than Sunday, no doubt.
Yeah, and 3 and 5, their 3 wins aren't No one's counting the cachet in the 3 wins that they've had, and there's been a couple of exposing losses along the way. And as you point out, the real trials are ahead. They're actually after the Richmond game. That's the 4 weeks against the teams right at the top of things. So we referenced this right at the start of the year. They're on the clock in the Bontempelli years. He's now 28. And the purposes of their reviews in the off-season were to put everything in order, to smooth out the bumps, to remove the tension and to get on with the business of returning to contention. And they spent most of last year in the 8 and they fumbled it late. They look a long way from that right now.
I don't think their list is as good as what others have said, but I certainly haven't got them losing to Hawthorn with the quality of senior players that they've got. Now, I do think they drop away, but the quality of senior players should have been enough yesterday. And they started like a bomb, mate. 3 goals in 5 minutes. And they, God, have a look at this. And then it changed, and the detractors of Beveridge would say, well, why didn't they make enough change? Or when Hawthorn started winning, we're getting right into it. When they started winning ground balls and they felt like they had like 15 6-footers running around everywhere, Hawthorn. They were like buzzing little bees everywhere. And they just couldn't adapt. You know, the talls in the forward line, if they fly against each other one more time, fair income, Gerard, I'll pull your hair out because it is so frustrating. Now, they haven't played a lot together, but they've got to start working out what's going on there. And they just bomb it long. They've got a bit of Melbourne about them. Get it, let's kick it long to the big guys. But everyone's waiting there. They had no Sicily yesterday. He went forward and they got 3 talls down there and Frost to defend them. And they're still just kicking a bomb. It's incredibly frustrating. I think Luke Beveridge will decide. They're not going to sack him. There'll be a decision before that. And me, Baines, will say, hey, Bevo, maybe you come up with the answer. Have a think about it. This game this week against Richmond, Gerard, you reckon the fallout was bad after the Hawthorn game?
Yes, yeah, no, it's not hard to forecast what that would look like. So the big picture, and then there's the narrow, which is Tom Liberatore right now, is just hugely concerning. So yesterday, it's a second heavy knock. So this happens in the last quarter, comes and has the quick assessment down on the bench and is past fit to return to action. Yeah. And then the really unfortunate incident where essentially he gets raked across the eyes with an opponent's boots, which was graphic. And then as you're about to see, the stumble that comes in the aftermath has such strong echoes of a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So this is a third concussion inside the last 10 games or so that he's played.
Yeah, well, the last game last year he missed because of concussion. We all know he had that fall or collapsed, a couple of weeks ago. He looks shot there. Look at that. Absolute shot. So we've got a man who's 31. I think he's 31. Say he's 32, I don't know. 31. We'll go with 31. 3 concussions in 10 games, Gerard. That's unsustainable. Now, he'll say, no, I'm right, because that's who he is. But at some stage, people who are close to him have got to say, hey, we've got to sit down and think about your future and what are you doing? Because that is unsustainable.
Yeah, so 31's right on. And there was an unmistakable note of caution from Luke Beveridge in the aftermath.
For me, for it to happen again this afternoon, when it was only a couple of weeks ago, then the same thing happened. It's a bigger concern than just a one-game issue for me, and I think we'd all be thinking that.
So out for an indefinite period of time after today's assessments were made at the club.
Who knows what that is? All we know is we hope that everything's all right with Libba.
And as if all wasn't bad enough, he got suspended as well. He's picked up a week for the dangerous tackle on Will Day. And that has the markers of
holding the hand, head in the ground.
Head, so
he'd be thinking to himself, Libba, if I walked under a black cat, do you walk under a black cat? No. You walk under a ladder and you walk past the black cat. Unless it's a really big black cat. They're running around the Highlands,
I've seen photos of those.
That's a big cat.
Quick word on the Hawks. It was an excellent performance by Hawthorn.
Oh, it really was. He's picked them up from the slaughter against Mitchell. He's picked them up with the slaughter against Sydney. He sat here, and everyone was questioning the way he was coaching. Don't you yell and rah, rah, rah. He stood firm with himself. OK, let's go out and play. They go 3 goals down in 5 minutes. You're thinking, God, what's going on here? Then they lose Sicily with a busted shoulder. That pops back in. He hurts his ankle. He goes forward. So they're defending the tools with Jack Frost, and they took control of the game.
In the second quarter, you're going, right, this is on, and they should have won by further.
See, every time you hear Sam Mitchell over the last 6 weeks and all of last year talking about we're building for the future, to borrow a line for a second, we can see it. We saw it, mate. There's an audit there, and you go tick, 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 tick. Now, the challenge, of course, is to be consistent. But I heard one of the boys on Fox say, geez, they play Marvel well. Maybe the young team is better at Marvel than on the wider expanses of the MCG. It was Jordan or Jack, and I thought, yeah, that was the smartest thing you said, guys.